How God deals with his enemies. Those who oppose the cross of Christ are the enemies of the cross of Christ. Philippians chapter 3, verse 18 to 19. For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is their shame, who mind earthly things. So this is talking about people who only care for themselves and their own status. The cross is where we come in brokenness and humility. So prideful, arrogant people are in opposition to it. How does God deal with such people? They may flourish for a time, but eventually they are dealt with. We can see this in human history. Take two demonic philosophies, fascism and Stalinism. I've often thought that as both philosophies are opposed to Christ, why didn't Satan cause them to team up so they could conquer the world? In fact, the pact was terminated on the 22nd of June 1941, when Germany launched Operation Barbarossa and invaded the Soviet Union. God did not allow them to unite, but instead turned them against each other. This is something that we see in the Bible. God would use the empires of the world to discipline Israel for its rebellion against him. However, when they had done their work, they themselves would be destroyed by another empire. Babylon was destroyed by the Medes and Persians. They in turn were defeated by the Greeks, who in turn were defeated by the Romans. When Israel crossed the river Jordan into the promised land, they were faced by 7 nations, bigger and stronger than themselves. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. These nations caused Israel problems, but ultimately they were all removed from the face of the earth. This is relevant to us today because we are facing ideas and philosophies that are trying to destroy our countries from within. One of the biggest battlegrounds is gender ideology. Feminism has been destroying family life and the denominational churches. Feminists are attempting to usurp the man's authority in the family and in the church. If men speak out against this, they are screamed at and called misogynistic. How does God deal with the situation? He treats the feminists the same way they treat the men. He uses the transgender men who say they are women to scream at the feminists. This phenomenon will increase, and feminist women will not get help from men who are men. Similarly, ungodly churches, which deny the authority of the Bible, will be destroyed by the feminists, transgender people and gay people who they have embraced. It's not up to us to judge, but God deals with people by using the measure that they use for other people. Matthew chapter 7 verse 2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. Ultimately, every enemy of God will be destroyed. When did you last meet a Hittite or Girgashite, for example? However, the Jews are still going strong. God lets his enemies destroy themselves, just as Haman was hung on his own scaffold. So get on the winning side and do not be anxious about all the ungodly things you see around you. God's grace is there for all who will receive it. His wrath will remain on those who reject his Son. Thank you for listening. If you found this video interesting, you can find more information at prophecy-workshop.com.